The Grand Assembly Hall was the most impressive structure in the known galaxy. It floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of light and metal. Thousands of species had helped build it over 10,000 years. Its halls were wide enough for the largest beings. Its chambers were designed so that every voice could be heard. It was meant to be a place of fairness and unity. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had stopped believing in that dream a long time ago. She stood at the lowest platform in the Great Chamber. This was where humanity always stood. In 87 years of membership, humans had never been given a higher seat. The Lorathi sat at the top, their silver scales catching the light as they looked down at everyone else. The Kethvari floated in their water spheres on the second level. The Draxi, the Vaughn, the Mathari, all of them sat above humanity. Elena did not mind the low seat. She minded what it represented. "The Council recognizes the representative of Earth," announced the speaker, a Lorathi named High Minister Selton. His voice carried the boredom of someone doing an unpleasant chore. "You may present your matter." Elena activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the air above her. Images of burning cities, of ships fleeing in panic, of bodies lying in streets that had been peaceful just days before. 3 human colonies have been attacked by Vorkath marauders in the past 4 months, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. Nexus Prime, Haven's Rest, New Bangalore. Combined population of 12 million people. Death toll so far, 47,000. The numbers hung in the air. Elena watched the faces of the council members. Some looked away. Most showed no reaction at all. "In each case," she continued, "we sent emergency requests to the Council Defense Fleet. In each case, help arrived between 6 and 9 days after the attacks began. The marauders were long gone by then. They had taken what they wanted. They had killed who they wanted." "The Defense Fleet has many responsibilities," said Minister Selton. "Response times vary based on strategic priorities." Strategic priorities. Elena repeated the words slowly. When the Lorathi mining station at Vexar 7 was threatened last year, the fleet arrived in 14 hours. When the Kethvari trade convoy was ambushed, response time was 11 hours. When human colonies burn, the priority seems to be somewhere else. A ripple of discomfort passed through the chamber. Elena knew she was breaking unwritten rules. Junior species did not question senior species. Humans did not challenge the Lorathi. That was how things worked. She no longer cared how things worked. "We request an explanation for these delays," she said, "and we request immediate deployment of Defense Fleet units to our 4th colony, Esperanza, which our intelligence indicates is the next target." Minister Selton leaned back in his elevated seat. His expression was the kind of patient annoyance that adults show to difficult children. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Vorkath marauders are a known problem in the outer regions. Every species must learn to defend its own territory. The Council provides support, but it cannot be everywhere at once. Perhaps humanity should invest more in its own military capabilities, rather than relying so heavily on others." Elena felt something cold settle in her chest. "We have been paying full membership fees for 87 years. We have contributed troops to Council peacekeeping missions. We have sent our engineers to build your relay stations. We have sent our doctors to serve on medical ships throughout Council space. We have done everything asked of us." "And you have been welcomed as members," Selton replied. "But membership does not mean the Council exists to solve all your problems. Younger species must learn to handle their own difficulties. It builds character." Laughter echoed from several platforms. The Draxi ambassador made a clicking sound that was their version of amusement. Even some of the traditionally neutral species seemed to find the moment entertaining. Elena waited for the laughter to fade. Then she spoke again. "Esperanza has 2 million people, families, children. Our intelligence says the Vorkath fleet will arrive within 15 days. We are asking the Council to protect them." "We will review the matter," Selton said. "A committee will be formed to assess the threat level and determine appropriate resource allocation. You should have a response within 60 cycles." 60 cycles. Nearly 70 Earth days. Esperanza would be ashes by then. Elena looked around the chamber. She looked at the species humanity had worked beside for almost a century. She remembered all the times humans had volunteered for the dangerous missions that no one else wanted. She remembered the human engineers who had died repairing space stations. She remembered the human soldiers who had given their lives protecting worlds that were not their own. None of it mattered. None of it had ever mattered. I understand, Elena said quietly. She reached up and removed the council badge from her uniform. It was a simple thing, a circle of metal with the symbol of United Species. Every ambassador wore one. It was supposed to mean something. She placed the badge on the speaking platform. "What are you doing?" Selton asked, and for the first time, there was uncertainty in his voice. "I am doing what I should have done years ago." Elena straightened her uniform. "On behalf of the United Earth government and all human territories, I hereby announce humanity's immediate and complete withdrawal from the Galactic Council." Silence fell over the chamber. It lasted only a moment. Then the laughter began again. This time it was louder. "Withdrawal?" The Draxi ambassador's clicking was rapid with amusement. "Where will you go? What will you do? You are a small species on the edge of nowhere. You need the Council far more than the Council needs you." "Perhaps," Elena said. "You will return within a year," Selton predicted, "begging for readmission. And we will be generous, of course. We will allow you back, after an appropriate period of reflection on your hasty decision." Elena picked up her datapad and prepared to leave. She paused at the edge of the platform and looked back at the assembled representatives of 100 species. They were still laughing. Some were already talking among themselves about other matters, as if humanity's departure was barely worth noting. "You will remember this day," she said. Her voice was not loud, but something in it made a few of them stop laughing and listen. "I hope you will not remember it with regret." "Is that a threat?" Selton asked. "From the species that cannot even protect its own colonies?" "It is not a threat," Elena said. "It is simply the truth. You have never seen us clearly. You have never understood what we are. Perhaps that is our fault. Perhaps we should have shown you. But we truly hoped, that you would value us for our friendship rather than our strength." She turned and walked toward the exit. The great doors opened for her, and the light of the hallway spilled into the dim chamber. "Goodbye, Minister Selton," she said without looking back. "Goodbye to all of you. May you never need the help you denied us." The doors closed behind her. In the chamber, the laughter slowly faded as the council returned to its regular business. Humanity was already being forgotten. They were a minor species after all. Their departure would change nothing. That was what everyone believed. Elena walked through the corridors of the station she had known for 15 years. She passed diplomats and officials from dozens of species. Most did not notice her. Those who did looked at her with pity or contempt. She reached the human section of the diplomatic wing. Her staff was already packing. They had known this was coming. They had hoped it would not, but they had prepared anyway. "It's done?" asked David Chen, her senior aide. "It's done." "How did they take it?" Elena allowed herself a small, tired smile. "They laughed." David nodded slowly. "They won't be laughing for long." "No," Elena agreed. "They won't." She looked out the window at the vast station, at the ships coming and going, at the great machinery of galactic civilization that humanity had served so faithfully for so long. Nobody out there knew what was coming. Nobody understood how much they had depended on the quiet species from the small blue planet. Nobody realized how many systems would stop working, how many protections would vanish, how many enemies would grow bold. They would learn. The galaxy would learn. And humanity would finally be free to become what they had always kept hidden. Elena opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador Vasquez, authorization code Omega 7. The Council has made its decision. We have made ours. Begin Protocol Sunrise." The response came immediately. "Protocol Sunrise confirmed. Welcome home, Ambassador. It's time." Elena closed the channel and continued packing. Behind her through the window, the station continued its endless rotation. The Council continued its endless debates. The galaxy continued its endless spinning. But everything had changed. The representatives in the Great Chamber did not know it yet. But the universe they understood had ended. A new age was about to begin. And it had started with a simple act. A woman removing a badge and walking away with her dignity intact. The rest would follow. 3 months passed after humanity left the Council. At first, nobody noticed anything different. The great machine of galactic civilization continued to turn. Ships traveled between stars. Trade flowed through ancient routes. The council met and debated and passed resolutions that nobody read. Then the silence began. Governor Kethmar of Lorathi Prime noticed it first. He was reviewing the monthly supply reports when he found an error. The agricultural shipments from the outer colonies were down by 30%. He called his logistics minister. "There must be a mistake in the numbers," he said. "Check them again." The minister checked. The numbers were correct. "How is this possible?" Kethmar demanded. "Our outer colonies produce the same amount as always." "It is not production, Governor. It is transportation." The minister looked uncomfortable. 40% of our food imports came through human trade networks. Their merchant ships handled the routes that were too long or too dangerous for our own vessels. They charged lower fees. They always delivered on time. Then hire other merchants. We are trying, but the Draxi charge 3 times as much. The Vaughn will not take routes through the Nebula Corridor. The Mathari ships are too slow. We are already seeing shortages on 7 outer worlds. Kethmar stared at the report. 40%. How had he not known this? How had none of them known? "Find a solution," he ordered. "This is unacceptable." The minister bowed and left. He did not have a solution. There was no solution, not a quick one. The humans had built their trade networks over 80 years. They could not be replaced in 3 months. Far across the galaxy, the Kethvari were facing a different problem. The great communication network was failing. The Kethvari had always been proud of this network. It connected every council species across 1,000 light years. Messages that once took months could be sent in seconds. It was considered one of the great achievements of galactic civilization. What most species did not know was that humans had designed the relay stations. Technician Vral floated in his water sphere, staring at error messages he did not understand. 3 relay stations had failed in the past week. The backup systems were struggling to handle the extra load. If more stations failed, entire sectors would lose communication. "Can we repair them?" asked Director Melith, her tentacles rippling with concern. "We can try," Vral said. "But the quantum alignment systems, they are human technology. We have the basic maintenance manuals, but for complex repairs..." He trailed off. "We never learned how they actually work," Melith finished. "No, we never thought we needed to." It was the same story that was repeating across council space. The humans had been everywhere, doing everything, and nobody had paid attention. They had been like air, invisible and essential and taken completely for granted. On the border worlds, the Vorkath Marauders were growing bold. Captain Thassan of the Council Defense Fleet received a distress call from Outpost Kara 5. A Vorkath raiding party had attacked a civilian transport. 40 passengers, mostly Draxi traders. "Set course for Kara 5, she ordered. "Maximum speed." Her ship was fast, but the outpost was far. It would take 3 days to arrive. 3 days was too long. Everyone knew it. "Captain," her communications officer said, "in the past, human patrol ships would respond to incidents in this sector. Their response time was usually 4 to 6 hours." "I know. Should we try to contact them?" Thassan shook her head. "Humanity left the council. They are not coming." The communications officer hesitated. "But the passengers..." "I know." Thassan's voice was sharp. "I know." They arrived at Kara 5 3 days later. The transport was drifting, its hull torn open. There were no survivors. It was the 3rd such incident in a month. Before humanity left, such attacks had been rare. The Vorkath had always seemed afraid of something. Now they attacked wherever they pleased. Nobody talked about this pattern openly, but everyone noticed it. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the council met to discuss the growing problems. Minister Selthan called the session to order. "These are temporary difficulties," he announced. "Adjustments are needed, nothing more. We became too dependent on human services, and now we must diversify. This is healthy. This will make us stronger." "Healthy?" Ambassador Thexalar of the Kethvari rose from his water sphere. "My people's communication network is failing. We have already lost contact with 3 remote colonies. When will we regain contact? Nobody knows. The humans are the only ones who understand the technology." "Then learn the technology," Selthan replied calmly. It took the humans 80 years to develop these systems. We do not have 80 years. Then you should have learned alongside them instead of simply accepting their help without question. Selthan's tone was dismissive. The humans are gone. We will adapt. Will we? The Draxi ambassador clicked his mandibles. My trade reports show that profit margins are down across every sector. Human merchants were not just cheap, they were reliable. They filled routes nobody else would take. They solved problems before we knew problems existed. Enough! Selthan's scales flashed with irritation. We will not sit here and praise the species that abandoned us. They chose to leave. Let them suffer for that choice. We are the Council. We ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years before humanity arrived. We will continue to rule it for 10,000 more. The session ended with nothing resolved. It was becoming a pattern. In the weeks that followed, investigators began digging through records. They wanted to understand exactly what humanity had done during their council membership. What they found surprised everyone. The Lorathi Intelligence Ministry discovered that human observer ships had been the actual backbone of the early warning systems protecting the core worlds. For decades, humans had volunteered for the most boring, most remote patrol duties. Duties nobody else wanted. Everyone had assumed they did this because they were young and eager to prove themselves. The truth was different. Human ships had detected and quietly deterred 7 major invasion attempts by outside powers. They had done this through diplomatic backchannels, through careful negotiations, through subtle shows of strength that nobody had ever seen. They had never reported these actions. They had never asked for credit or reward. Why? Asked Intelligence Director Voss, staring at the classified files. Why keep this secret? His analyst had no answer. Neither did anyone else. On a dozen worlds, Council species began to realize how much they had depended on humans for things they had never noticed. Human engineers had maintained power grids. Human doctors had staffed remote medical stations. Human teachers had run schools for mixed-species children whose own governments had forgotten them. None of this had been required. None of it had been part of any agreement. The humans had simply seen needs and filled them. They had seen problems and fixed them. They had seen suffering and eased it. And they had done it all without asking for anything in return except to be treated as equals. The Council had given them the lowest seats in the Great Chamber instead. 3 months after humanity's departure, Ambassador Thexelar made a proposal in a private meeting of senior council members. We should ask them to return, he said. Selthan laughed. Return? They threatened us and abandoned their responsibilities. We should punish them, not reward them. They did not threaten us. Ambassador Vasquez only said we would remember this day. A veiled threat, or a warning from someone who saw what we could not see. Thexelar's many eyes were troubled. Minister, I have spent the past month studying our dependency on human services. The picture is concerning. If these problems continue to grow, we may face serious instability within a year. You exaggerate. I hope so, but I do not think I do. Selthan waved a dismissive hand. The humans will come crawling back. They have no choice. They are a small species, far from the galactic center. They need our protection, our trade, our technology. When their pride fades and reality sets in, they will beg for readmission. And if they do not, then they will fade into irrelevance where they belong. But even as Selthan spoke these words, something was happening in human space. Ships were moving. Stations were being built. Messages were being sent through channels the Council had never known existed. Humanity was not crawling. Humanity was not fading. Humanity was preparing. On Earth, in a chamber far beneath the mountains of what was once called Switzerland, a council of human leaders met to review the progress of Protocol Sunrise. Admiral Chen Wei presented the Fleet Readiness Report. All primary assets are now at full combat status. Reserve fleets are completing final preparations. We can deploy within 72 hours if needed. President Okonkwo nodded slowly. And the Council? How long before they understand their situation? Based on current trends, significant economic disruption within 6 months. Political instability within a year. Unless the Dreth make their move sooner. The Dreth? Our intelligence indicates they are watching. They have always feared us, though they never knew why. Now they see us gone from Council space. They see the council weakening. They are considering their options. Okonkwo looked around the table at the men and women who led humanity. They were tired. They were sad. They had spent 87 years hoping that the galaxy would accept them as partners. That hope was dead now. "We did everything right," she said quietly. "We helped them. We protected them. We asked for nothing except respect." "I know," Admiral Chen said, "but respect was the one thing they would not give." "Then we have no choice. Continue preparations. When the time comes, the galaxy will see who we truly are." And then, Okonkwo stood and looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. "Then we will save them anyway, because that is who we choose to be." The meeting ended. The preparations continued. And in the silence between stars, something was waking. Something that had slept for nearly a century while humanity played the role of the humble younger species. The galaxy would meet that something soon, and nothing would ever be the same. 8 months after humanity walked away, the galaxy began to fall apart. The attack came without warning. 300 Vorkath warships dropped out of hyperspace above Lorathi Prime's outer colonies. They did not send demands. They did not negotiate. They simply began burning everything they could reach. Governor Kethmar watched the destruction from his command center. The screens showed colony after colony going dark. Millions of Lorathi were dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "Where is the defense fleet?" he demanded. "En route, Governor, but the Vorkath are faster. They will finish their attack and leave before our ships arrive." "How is this possible? We should have had warning. The early detection systems are not functioning properly." The aide's voice was quiet. "They rely on the patrol network, the human patrol network, the network we no longer have." Kethmar felt something cold grip his heart. The humans. It always came back to the humans. For 8 months, the Council had told itself that everything would be fine. They had told themselves that humanity was not important. They had told themselves that the growing problems were temporary, that solutions would be found, that the galaxy did not need one small species from the edge of known space. They had been wrong. The Council Defense Fleet arrived at the Lorathi colonies 18 hours after the attack began. By then, the Vorkath were gone. They had taken millions of Lorathi as slaves. They had burned cities and destroyed infrastructure that had taken centuries to build. It was the worst attack in Lorathi history, and it was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, the Vorkath grew even bolder. They attacked Kethvari shipping lanes. They raided Draxi mining operations. They struck targets that had been considered safe for generations. The Council responded with its fleet, but something was wrong. The ships did not coordinate properly. Orders were confused. Reinforcements arrived at the wrong locations. The great military machine that had protected the galaxy for thousands of years was stumbling like a blind creature in the dark. Admiral Thassan knew why. She had spent months studying the records, piecing together the truth that nobody wanted to admit. "Humanity was our coordinator," she told the Council in an emergency session. "For decades, their communications specialists served on our command ships. We thought they were just observers, learning from us. But they were actually making our fleet function. They translated between different species' tactical systems. They resolved conflicts between commanders who spoke different military languages. They were the glue that held us together." "That cannot be true," Minister Selton said. "Our fleet is the most powerful in the galaxy. We do not need humans to function." "Then explain why we have lost every major engagement since they left. Explain why our response times have doubled. Explain why 3 of our battle groups fired on each other last week because of miscommunication errors." Selton had no explanation. Nobody did. But the military failures were not the worst news. The worst news came from the galactic border. The Dreth hegemony was moving. The Dreth were an old empire, older than the Council itself. They had fought wars against the Council for thousands of years. But for the past century, they had been quiet. They had stayed on their side of the border. They had seemed afraid of something. Now that fear was gone. Intelligence Director Voss presented his findings to a closed session of Council leaders. His face was grim. "The Dreth are massing fleets along the border. Our estimates suggest they are preparing for a full-scale invasion." "When?" Selton asked. "Unknown, but soon. They are waiting for something." What are they waiting for? Voss hesitated. We believe they are waiting to be certain that humanity will not intervene. The room went silent. Selthan's scales paled to a sickly gray. Why would the Dreth care about humanity? The humans are weak. Everyone knows this. Everyone believed this, Voss corrected. But I have been reviewing classified intelligence from the past century. The picture that emerges is disturbing. He activated a holographic display. Documents appeared. Documents that had been buried in archives. Documents that nobody had bothered to read. Documents that changed everything. 17 years ago, the Dreth assembled an invasion fleet of 2,000 ships. They were preparing to attack the Council's core worlds. The invasion never happened. I remember, Selthan said. Our diplomats negotiated a peace agreement. No. Voss's voice was flat. The Dreth received a private message from Earth. The contents of that message remain classified even to us. But within 24 hours, the Dreth fleet dispersed. The invasion was canceled, and the Dreth have not made an aggressive move in 17 years. Until now. Until humanity left. The Dreth are testing whether the threat is still real. So far, they have seen nothing to make them afraid. The Council debated for 3 days. They argued about strategies and alliances and military preparations. But there was really only one option, and everyone knew it. They had to bring humanity back. Ambassador Thexelar was chosen for the mission. He was respected by humans. He had spoken against their mistreatment many times over the years. If anyone could convince them to return, it was him. He traveled to Earth with a delegation of council representatives. They carried formal apologies. They carried promises of reform. They carried offers of full partnership and elevated status. Ambassador Elena Vasquez met them in Geneva, in the same building where human diplomats had first welcomed the council nearly a century ago. She looked different than Thexelar remembered. She looked tired but also certain. She looked like someone who had made peace with difficult truths. Ambassador Thexelar, she said, it is good to see you. I always respected you. And I respected you, Ambassador Vasquez. I wish we had done more to support you when it mattered. So do I. They sat across from each other at a simple table. No elaborate chambers, no elevated seats, just two diplomats and the weight of history between them. You know why I am here, Thexelar said. Yes. The Council has authorized me to offer humanity full membership with equal voting rights. You would have a seat on the High Council itself. Your colonies would receive full protection. Your species would be recognized as a founding partner of a new galactic order. Elena listened without expression. When Thexelar finished, she was silent for a long moment. That is a generous offer, she finally said, but I must decline. Ambassador, please. The Dreth are preparing to invade. The Vorkath are destroying our outer worlds. Our fleet cannot function without human coordination. The Council is falling apart. I know. Then why will you not help? Elena stood and walked to the window. Outside, the mountains of Earth rose against a blue sky. Children played in a park below. Birds sang in trees that had grown for hundreds of years. When the Vorkath were killing my people, we asked for help, she said. We did not demand. We did not threaten. We simply asked, as partners ask partners. The Council laughed at us. Minister Selthan said that younger species must solve their own problems. That was wrong, we know that now. Yes, but you only know it now because you need something from us. Elena turned back to face him. For 87 years, we served the Council faithfully. We protected you in ways you never saw. We helped you in ways you never acknowledged. We asked for nothing except to be treated with basic dignity. I know. I tried to. You tried. You were one of the few who did. But the Council as a whole decided that we were not worth respecting. You took everything we offered and gave contempt in return. Thexelar's many eyes were filled with grief. What can we do? How can we make this right? Elena returned to her seat. Her voice was gentle but firm. Nothing. There is nothing you can do. We are not angry, Ambassador. We are not seeking revenge. We simply no longer need your approval. We no longer need your validation. We spent 87 years hoping you would see our worth. That hope is gone now. So you will let the Council fall? You will let billions die? Elena smiled sadly. I did not say that. When the time comes, when the true crisis arrives, humanity will act. But we will act as ourselves, not as your servants. We will help because help is needed, not because you have finally decided to respect us. Thexelar leaned forward. What do you mean? What is humanity planning? You will see soon enough. Tell the council to prepare for the Dreth. Do what you can to protect your people. And when everything seems lost, when you believe there is no hope, look to the stars. The meeting ended. Thexelar returned to council space with his delegation. He reported his failure to Minister Selton. She refused everything? Everything! Selton's scales rippled with frustration. Arrogant creatures. They would let the galaxy burn rather than help those who hurt their feelings. No, Thexelar said quietly. That is not what she said. She said humanity would act when the true crisis comes. She told us to look to the stars. Riddles and poetry, useless. But Thexelar did not think so. He had seen something in Elena's eyes. Not anger, not revenge, something else. Something that looked almost like pity. Pity for the council. Pity for a galaxy that did not understand what was coming. 4 months later, the Dreth invasion began. The Dreth came with 10,000 ships. They crossed the border in a wave of darkness and fire. Their vessels were ancient and terrible, built for war by a civilization that had known nothing but war for 50,000 years. Each ship was larger than anything the Council possessed. Each carried weapons that could turn planets to ash. The Council Defense Fleet met them at the Kara Nebula. 3,000 ships against 10,000. The Council commanders knew the odds were bad, but they had no choice. If the Dreth broke through here, there would be nothing between them and the core worlds. Admiral Thesson led the defense. She had spent 4 months preparing for this moment, training her crews, trying to rebuild the coordination that had been lost when the humans left. It was not enough. She knew it was not enough, but she would fight anyway. All ships, engage at will, she ordered. Make them pay for every light year. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Council fleet fought bravely. They destroyed over 1,000 Dreth ships. But for every Dreth vessel that fell, 3 Council ships were lost. The coordination problems that had plagued them for a year remained. Ships moved out of formation. Commands were misunderstood. Allies accidentally targeted each other in the chaos of combat. When it was over, the Council fleet was broken. Less than 500 ships remained. Admiral Thesson's flagship drifted, crippled, as she watched the Dreth Armada continue its advance. Signal the Council, she said quietly. Tell them we failed. Tell them to begin evacuations of the core worlds. Her communications officer wept as she sent the message. In the Grand Assembly Hall, panic had taken hold. Representatives screamed at each other. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for final stands that would accomplish nothing. Minister Selton tried to maintain order, but his voice was lost in the chaos. We are doomed, the Draxi ambassador clicked. The Dreth will enslave us all. Perhaps the humans, someone began. The humans will not save us. They hate us. They will watch us burn and laugh. Ambassador Thexelar floated in his sphere, silent amid the chaos. He remembered Elena's words. When everything seems lost, look to the stars. He looked. The first reports came from the border stations, the few that still functioned. Ships were appearing, hundreds of ships, then thousands. They were coming from the direction of human space. Council vessels? Someone asked hopefully. No. The communications officer's voice was strange. The signatures do not match any known council design. They are larger than anything we have on record. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered and changed. It showed the approaching fleet. Silence fell across the Grand Assembly Hall. The ships were massive. The smallest was larger than the Council's biggest battleship. The largest was the size of a small moon. They moved in perfect formation, thousands of vessels acting as one. Their hulls gleamed with a metal that nobody recognized. Their weapons arrays were vast and terrible. And on every ship, one symbol was displayed, the blue and green circle of Earth. Impossible, Minister Selton whispered. This is impossible. A communication request appeared on every screen in the chamber. Ambassador Thexalar accepted it. Elena Vasquez appeared in holographic form, standing in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall. She wore a military uniform now, not the diplomatic clothes they remembered. Her expression was calm and sad. Council of the Galactic Alliance, she said. This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Fleet. We are aware of the Dreth invasion. We are here to help. Help? Selton's voice cracked. What is this fleet? Where did these ships come from? You told us you were weak. You told us you could not even protect your own colonies. Elena looked at him with something like pity. We told you nothing, Minister. You told yourselves. You looked at the small patrol ships we showed you and decided that was all we had. You watched our humble engineers and simple merchants and decided that was all we were. We never lied to you. We simply did not correct your assumptions. For 87 years? You hid this for 87 years? Yes. Why? Elena was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy with old sorrow. Because we hoped we would never need it. Because we hoped you would accept us as friends and partners. Because we believed that if we showed you our true strength, you would fear us instead of respecting us. We wanted to earn your trust through service, through kindness, through decades of faithful help. We wanted you to value us for our hearts, not our weapons. She looked around the chamber at the representatives of 100 species who had laughed at humanity, dismissed humanity, treated humanity as beneath notice for nearly a century. We were wrong, she said. You never saw our hearts. You only saw our apparent weakness, and you despised us for it. Now you will see our strength. I hope you will not despise us for that as well. The display changed to show the tactical situation. The Dreth Armada was approaching the core worlds. The Council's remaining fleet was scattered and broken. Between them and total victory was nothing. Nothing except the human fleet. We will engage the Dreth, Elena said. We ask nothing in return. We make no demands. We are not doing this because you asked, or because you apologized, or because you finally decided to treat us with respect. We are doing this because innocent people will die if we do not. She paused. We are doing this because it is right. The transmission ended. The human fleet met the Dreth Armada in the space between stars. 10,000 Dreth warships against 8,000 human vessels. The Dreth commanders were confident. They had crushed the Council fleet. These newcomers would be no different. They were wrong. The battle lasted 4 hours. In those 4 hours, the galaxy changed forever. Human weapons tore through Dreth shields like paper. Human ships moved with coordination that made the Council's best seem clumsy. When Dreth commanders tried to adapt, the humans adapted faster. When Dreth reinforcements arrived, human forces were already waiting for them. Admiral Thesson watched from her crippled flagship as the Dreth Armada was systematically destroyed. She had fought in dozens of battles over her long career. She had never seen anything like this. They are not just defeating the Dreth, her tactical officers said in wonder. They are doing it precisely, surgically. They are destroying military capability while minimizing casualties on both sides. It was true. The humans were not simply winning, they were winning with restraint. They disabled ships when they could instead of destroying them. They targeted weapons and engines, leaving life support intact. They accepted surrenders immediately and protected captives from further harm. They were fighting a war with mercy. When it was over, the Dreth High Admiral sent a surrender message. His voice was broken. We yield. We yield to the humans. We will withdraw from Council space immediately. We will accept any terms you offer. Please, please, no more. Elena's response was broadcast across the galaxy. Your surrender is accepted. You will withdraw to your own territory. You will release all prisoners taken in this war and in previous conflicts. You will dismantle your offensive military capabilities. And you will never again threaten the people of this galaxy, Council or otherwise. Yes, yes, we agree to everything. Then go home. Rebuild your civilization for peace instead of war. We bear you no hatred. We wish you no suffering. This war is over. The Dreth fled. Their great armada, which had threatened to enslave the galaxy, retreated in broken pieces to their distant empire. They would never threaten the Council again. In the Grand Assembly Hall, nobody spoke for a long time. The representatives stared at the displays showing the aftermath of battle. They stared at the human fleet, massive and terrible and merciful. Finally, Ambassador Thexelar broke the silence. They saved us. After everything we did to them, they saved us. They had to, Selton said, but his voice was weak. They are part of this galaxy too. They had no choice. They had every choice. Thexelar turned to face the Lorathi minister. They could have waited until the Dreth destroyed us. They could have conquered what remained. They could have made us slaves as we made them second-class members for 87 years. They chose mercy instead. Selton had no response. Far away on her command ship, Elena Vasquez looked out at the stars. The battle was over. The galaxy was safe, and humanity had finally shown itself to the universe. Admiral Chen Wei stood beside her. The Council will want to negotiate now. They will offer us everything, leadership, control, whatever we want. I know. What will we tell them? Elena thought about the question for a long time. She thought about the decades of service, the years of contempt, the moment when she had placed her badge on the speaking platform and walked away. She thought about the person she wanted to be, the species she wanted humanity to be. We will tell them the truth, she said finally. We do not want to rule them. We never did. We only wanted to be their partners, their friends. And now we will build something new, something better. Not because they have finally learned to respect us, but because it is the right thing to do. She turned away from the stars and began walking toward the communication center. There was work to be done, a galaxy to rebuild, a future to create. We showed them our strength, she said. Now we will show them something more important. What is that? We will show them who we choose to be. The galaxy was quiet in the days after the battle. Ships drifted among the wreckage of the greatest war in known history. Rescue teams moved through the debris, saving survivors from both sides. Human medical vessels treated Dreth wounded alongside Council casualties. Nobody was turned away. Nobody was left to die. On the Dreth homeworld, a civilization that had known nothing but conquest for 50,000 years began to change. Their fleet was gone. Their empire was broken. They expected punishment. They expected slavery. They expected humanity to do what they would have done in humanity's place. Instead, they received help. Human ships arrived with food and medicine. Human engineers helped repair damaged infrastructure. Human diplomats offered terms that were firm but fair. Disarmament and reform, but not humiliation, not subjugation. The Dreth High Chancellor met with Admiral Elena Vasquez on his ruined homeworld. He was old and tired, and he had spent his entire life preparing for a war that was now over forever. I do not understand, he said. We tried to enslave your allies. We would have destroyed everything you care about. Why do you show us mercy? Elena looked at the ancient being before her. She saw his confusion, his fear, his desperate hope that this was not some trick. Because mercy is not weakness, she said. It is the hardest kind of strength. Anyone can destroy an enemy. Building peace with that enemy, that requires something more. Your people could rule the galaxy now. No one could stop you. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We never did. Then what do you want? Elena smiled. We want the same thing we wanted when we first reached the stars. We want friends, we want partners. We want to explore and learn and grow alongside other civilizations. We want to help where help is needed and be helped in return. That is all? That is everything. The Dreth High Chancellor bowed his head. For the first time in 50,000 years, a leader of the Dreth hegemony wept. We will become what you describe, he said. We will learn to be better. I do not know if we can succeed, but we will try. Your mercy gives us a chance to try. The Dreth reconstruction would take decades. It would be difficult and slow and sometimes painful, but it would happen. A civilization that had been defined by war would learn to define itself by something else. Humanity had shown them that change was possible. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the Council met to discuss the future. The chamber was quieter than it had ever been. The representatives who had once laughed at humanity now sat in humbled silence. Minister Selton rose to speak. His scales had turned gray since the battle, and he moved like a being who carried a heavy weight. I stand before you to acknowledge the truth that we refused to see for 87 years. Humanity was never the weak species we believed them to be. They were protectors hiding their strength, servants choosing to serve, partners hoping to be valued for their hearts instead of their power. He paused, gathering himself. We failed them. We took their service for granted. We mocked their requests for basic dignity. We let their people die while we debated procedures. The fact that they saved us anyway, the fact that they showed mercy to enemies who had done them great harm, this tells us everything about who they truly are. Ambassador Thexelar floated forward in his water sphere. What do we do now? How do we make this right? We cannot make it right, Selthan admitted. The past cannot be undone, but we can choose a better future. He turned to face the holographic image of Elena Vasquez, who was attending the session from her flagship. Ambassador Admiral Vasquez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our deepest apologies for the treatment humanity has received. We offer you leadership of the Council itself. Take your place at the highest seat. Guide us as you should have been guiding us all along. Elena was quiet for a long moment. The entire chamber waited for her answer. No, she said finally. Selthan blinked. No? Humanity will not rule over you. That was never our wish. We did not save you to claim dominion. We saved you because it was right. Then what do you want? I want what we always wanted. Partnership. True partnership. Not a council where some species sit high and others sit low. Not an alliance where power determines worth. Something new. Something better. She stepped forward, and the holographic image seemed to fill the chamber. For 10,000 years, this council has been built on hierarchy. Strong species rule. Weak species serve. Everyone fights for position, and those at the bottom are forgotten. That system created the conditions that led to this war. It created the resentment that made the Dreth into conquerors. It created the contempt that made you dismiss humanity for 87 years. What alternative do you propose? A true alliance, a federation where every species has equal voice, regardless of their military power or economic strength, where decisions are made for the good of all, not the benefit of a few, where we help each other not because we are required to, but because we are partners. The chamber buzzed with murmured discussions. The idea was radical. It went against 10,000 years of galactic tradition, but the traditions had failed. Everyone knew that now. It will be difficult, Thexelar said. Many will resist. Old prejudices do not die easily. Nothing worth building is easy, Elena agreed. But we have a chance now, a real chance to create something better. The Dreth are willing to change. The Council species have seen where the old ways lead. Humanity is willing to help. Help how? We will share our technology. We will share our knowledge. We will help protect those who cannot protect themselves and ask nothing in return except friendship. We will not rule you. We will walk beside you. Selthan stepped down from his elevated platform. He walked across the chamber floor until he stood directly in front of Elena's image. Then slowly, he bowed his head. I was wrong about humanity, he said. I was wrong about many things. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I will spend the rest of my life earning it. Elena smiled gently. Forgiveness is not earned, Minister. It is given freely or not at all. And I give it now. To you, to the Council, to everyone who treated us with contempt. The past is gone. Let us build the future. One by one, other representatives stepped down from their platforms. They gathered on the floor of the chamber, equals standing together for the first time in 10,000 years. The Galactic Federation was born that day. Years passed. The galaxy healed. The Dreth became unexpected allies. Their warrior culture transformed into a tradition of protection rather than conquest. The Council species learned to work together without hierarchy. Humanity spread across the stars, not as rulers but as partners, friends, and helpers. Elena Vasquez retired from the military and became the first human to serve as Federation Ambassador at Large. She traveled from world to world, building bridges, solving disputes, showing everyone what humanity had always believed, that kindness was stronger than cruelty. that mercy was more powerful than revenge, that the measure of true strength was how you treated those who could not fight back. On the anniversary of the day humanity left the Council, a new holiday was established. It was called Remembrance Day, a time to remember not just the war that had threatened everything, but the lesson that war had taught. The Lorathi representative who had once laughed at Elena gave the first Remembrance Day address. We remember this day not with shame, though we feel shame. We remember it as the day we learned truth. We learned that the quiet ones were not weak. We learned that the humble ones were not inferior. We learned that the species we dismissed as unimportant had been saving us all along. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. But the most important lesson we learned was this. When we hurt them, when we abandoned them, when we showed them the worst of ourselves, they responded by showing us the best of themselves. They could have conquered us. They could have let us fall. They chose mercy. They chose hope. They chose to be better than we deserved. Across the galaxy, beings of 100 species listened. Many remembered the old days, when hierarchy seemed natural and contempt for the weak was accepted. They remembered how wrong they had been. In her garden on Earth, Elena Vasquez listened to the speech with her grandchildren playing nearby. She was old now, her hair white and her face lined with years, but her eyes were still bright with the same quiet strength that had carried her through decades of service, dismissal, and finally triumph. Grandmother, her grandson asked, "Why did you help them? After everything they did?" Elena smiled and pulled the boy close. "Because that is who we choose to be. Every day, every moment, we choose who we are. The Council chose to dismiss us. The Dreth chose to conquer. Humanity chose to help anyway. But wasn't it hard? Weren't you angry?" "Yes, it was hard. And yes, sometimes I was angry. But anger is a fire that burns whoever holds it. Mercy is a fire that warms everyone. I chose warmth." She looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, ships carrying humans and Lorathi and Kethvari, and even Dreth flew together in peace. Somewhere out there, the galaxy that had once seemed so cruel was learning to be kind. "The day we walked away from the Council, everything changed," she said quietly. But the real change was not in them. It was in us. We finally understood that their approval did not define us. Their contempt did not diminish us. We were always who we chose to be. We just needed to stop pretending otherwise. Her grandson nodded, not fully understanding, but remembering. Someday, when he was older, he would tell this story to his own children, and they would tell it to theirs. And across the galaxy, for generations to come, beings would gather on Remembrance Day to tell the tale of the quiet species from the small blue planet who had saved everything by walking away, and then saved everything again by coming back. Not for conquest, not for revenge, not even for respect, simply because it was right. That was humanity's gift to the universe, and the universe at last understood.